Contractors to talk to JKR if necessary. Temporary documentation for stateless children, and Sarawak optimistic in attracting over 1 million visitors. Those are the headlines for tonight. I'm Hari Zainuddin and this is TVS Nightline. The Batang Saribas 2 Bridge and Sungai Paku Bridge in Spau are considered sick projects, as both have fallen behind their respective completion schedules. Following that, Deputy Premier of Sarawak, Dato' Amar Douglas Uga Ambas, who is also Minister of Infrastructure and Port Development, urged contractors who are facing problems implementing their projects to talk with the Public Works Department, JKR.
Uga stressed that all infrastructural projects that have been approved must be completed according to the schedules that had been set. Otherwise, the public will be disappointed and their trust in the government would be affected. The Batang Saribas 2 bridge, costing 385 million ringgit, is scheduled to be completed on February 4, 2025. However, the revised date is now March 7, 2025. On the other hand, the new completion schedule for Sungai Paku Bridge is December 21, 2023, from the original date of November 5, 2023. Both projects are affected, among others, by the delays in transporting construction materials to the sites from China and elsewhere due to travel restrictions caused by the COVID-19 Movement Control Order (MCO), in addition to the bad weather.
The Sarawak government is committed in its effort to develop the rural areas and open up new economic centres. This includes the allocation of 39 million ringgit to link Pakan area with Ulu Paku area in Betong. Deputy Premier of Sarawak, Dato' Amar Douglas Uga Ambas, said the high-impact project will open up new routes for local communities, thus reducing transportation costs between the two areas.
Saya mengumumkan bahawa Yang Hormat Premier telah meluluskan 39 juta untuk membina jalan di missing link di antara Pakan dengan Betong, Pakan dengan Ulu Paku Betong. Sekarang sedang pembinaan jalan dari Pakan ini ke toward that direction, and then di sana pun ada satu package lagi yang sedang dalam pembinaan.
Uga added that the project is proof of the government's commitment in preparing the best infrastructure needed by the people, especially in the rural areas of Sarawak.
Dan untuk menyambung ada satu missing link 6 km. Jadi Premier telah meluluskan 39 juta untuk membina jalan ini. Apakah manfaat jalan ini? Manfaat jalan ini kalau kita nak pergi dari Serike atau dari Pakan ke Kuching, kita boleh mengurangkan tempoh perjalanan berapa kilometer? About 40 to 50 kilometers. Because it's a very straight road down to the other side, and more than 1 hour saving.
Not only that, the infrastructure will also open ways for a new economy among the local communities.
Jadi inilah yang akan mengubah corak tempat kawasan ini. Yang kedua, ianya juga membuka kawasan-kawasan yang belum dibangun di sepanjang jalan itu. Tadi saya terbang, saya nampak masih banyak tanah-tanah kosong, tanah NCR yang belum dibangunkan. Jadi dengan ada jalan ini, ianya akan membuka ruang untuk kita membangunkan kawasan-kawasan dan untuk kemudahan-kemudahan penduduk-penduduk di sekitar kawasan ini dengan kawasan Betong.
Now, Sarawak will issue temporary documentation to stateless individuals who are waiting for approval for citizenship status. Minister of Women, Childhood and Community Wellbeing Development, Datuk Sri Fatimah Abdullah, said the special documentation will be issued by the Office of the Premier of Sarawak.
She added the matter was decided in a cabinet meeting that was held recently.
The Office of the Premier will be issuing a temporary documentation. It's not permanent, temporary documentation to support these stateless persons untuk membantu stateless persons, terutama kanak-kanak, untuk mendapat akses kepada pendidikan dan juga kesihatan di Sarawak. Yang ini adalah khas untuk kanak-kanak. Kanak-kanak di bawah umur 21.
She said this at a special media conference on the issue of citizenship under Article 15A of the Federal Constitution on Saturday. However, she added that the special documentation is not a government's promise to obtain citizenship.
Hak mutlaknya adalah di bawah kerajaan persekutuan. So we are working within that kuasa yang ada. Kuasa yang ada pada negeri to issue a temporary document untuk membantu membantu, so it's called temporary document untuk membantu kanak-kanak ini.
In the meantime, those who already have special documents still need to undergo the process of obtaining citizenship status.
In another development, Dato' Sri Fatimah Abdullah said additional one-stop early intervention centers will be opened throughout the state, including in remote areas. She added that the centers will provide facilities for autistic children for intervention and rehabilitation purposes.
Inshallah, we would also like to expand OSIP to other parts of Sarawak, including rural areas, so that no one, not even our people with disabilities, will be left behind.
She said this during a press conference after officiating the Kuching Autism Association's Autism Awareness Program and book launch at the State Library, Putrajaya on Saturday. In addition, she said that awareness of autism is important for all levels of society to assist parents to overcome the denial stage of having autistic children.
We have to make sure that our children will be properly diagnosed, do early intervention and rehabilitation.
In addition, she said that the state government will provide special residences for autistic individuals who have lost their parents and guardians. The Sarawak government previously allocated a grant of 4.179 million ringgit to the Kuching Autistic Association KAA for the construction of an education block.
Now, a mother to a special child, Rosalind Wee, who is also the founder of the Kuching Autistic Association, KAA, wants parents who have children with special needs to be wise in catering to the needs of their children. According to her, parents of children with special needs should not be embarrassed or shunned by the community.
Rosalind, who shares her experience through her story Into a New World, hopes that her stories would inspire and create awareness among communities regarding autism. She further explained that her book shares the challenges and her experiences since her son Jonathan was diagnosed as an autistic individual at the age of 7.
One of the memorable moments was when he was almost drowned in the Sarawak River. He went missing one day and we could not find him. Then we received a call from the police and it turned out that it was him. He was already almost drowned when the boatman saw 3 fingers in the water. Then he pulled, my son's name is Jonathan, he put Jonathan out from the water.
She shared her experiences during the Autism Awareness Ceremony and book launch fundraising at Pustaka Negeri Sarawak on Saturday. Meanwhile, she also explained that these groups of children needed to get further treatment and diagnosed if they are detected to behave differently.
Sarawak remains optimistic about their target to receive 1.2 million visitors and generate 3.2 billion ringgit in tourism receipts this year. Minister of Tourism, Creative Industry and Performing Arts, Datuk Sri Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah said the target was supported by positive indicators for tourist arrivals in the first quarter of 2022, which was 517 million tourists.
So, based on these numbers, we are really looking forward to 2022. We have only reached up to March. So for the rest of the year, I believe with the kind of events, with the kind of preparation that we have done, I believe things will be better, things will be good. And apart from that also, the last 2 years when we are under the lockdown, we does not just keep quiet. Actually, we have got lots of programs for the tour guides, for the park guides, even for taxi drivers and those who are in the tourism industry.
He told reporters this after the launch of the Malaysian Association of Tour and Travel Agents, or MATA, 2022 in Kuala Lumpur on Saturday. Abdul Karim added, before the COVID-19 outbreak, the number of visitors coming to Sarawak showed a promising number. In 2019 alone, tourist arrivals to Sarawak showed the highest volume at 4.66 million. Meanwhile, for the recovery phase, the state government has planned various tourism activities to bring more visitors to Sarawak this year. Apart from that, the state government is also working closely with the federal government to work out the flight frequency into Sarawak, as more flights into the state can indirectly promote the state to local and international tourists and reduce airfares.
Tabung Baitumal Sarawak TBS hopes that the Jejak Asnaf app can fully be utilized to benefit the community and ensure that no one is left out. Apart from that, TBS General Manager Datu Abang Muhammad Shibli said the app can also educate the public on their responsibilities.
He added, with the app, his organization will be able to track the people who are in need of assistance and strengthen relationships with the community.
Aplikasi Jejak Asnaf ini memanglah tujuan kita untuk memastikan ada perhubungan kita dengan masyarakat sebab Sarawak ini terlalu luas. Jadi dengan bilangan yang terhad bagi pekerja kami, jadi kita terpaksa melangkah masuk dalam era digital ini dengan aplikasi khas Jejak Asnaf. Melalui aplikasi ini orang dapat mengadu. Di samping itu, selain daripada mengadu, mereka juga turut terlibat untuk menyiasat berdasarkan kepada soalan-soalan yang kami nyatakan di dalam aplikasi itu dan akhirnya akan dapat memberi jawapan layak atau tidak. So inilah cantiknya aplikasi Jejak Asnaf itu. Pada masa inilah terus terang saya menyatakan bahawa orang sudah mula merasa khawatir nak menggunakan kerana mereka melihat bahawa mereka pula jadi bertanggungjawab untuk menolong. Betul. Kalau kita nak menolong, kita nak berkebajikan, gunakanlah aplikasi itu. Jadi kami dapat menangani isu-isu yang dihadapi oleh masyarakat dengan lebih cepat.
He said this after the breaking of fast with the Asnaf group at the Cebu Islamic Complex Hall. At the function, TBS distributed assistance worth 25,800 ringgit to 46 recipients and Tafiz institutions in Cebu. As of March 25, 2022, TBS has distributed a total of 14.9 million ringgit to Asnaf groups who are eligible under 4 main programs, namely Program to Strengthen Scientific Tradition, Program to Develop Islamic Institutions, Program to Strengthen the Welfare of Muslim Communities, and Skill Enhancement Program.
Lagi cerita kau ya, si merugikan company, si merugikan aku, si merugikan kau. Kau jangan masuk campur.
Tahu pola masalah. Siap. Staf Armada 50% pekerja akan dibuang bulan depan.
Jaga sikit mulut you, John.
Kita dapat buktikan yang Jabatan Akaun Sekda kena mengenal dalam mana-mana transaksi haram tu.
Beauty Tips membawakan kepada anda bukan sahaja kecantikan luaran dan dalaman, tapi kami akan kongsikan juga kepada anda petua kecantikan semula jadi. Jangan lupa saksikan saya Azwa Shah dan Siti Zawawi setiap hari Jumaat jam 10.15 pagi hanya di TVS saluran 122 Astro dan My Preview.
Welcome back to TVS Nightline. The Foreign Ministry today stressed the allegation that 10,000 Malaysians were still in Thailand illegally or overstaying as completely baseless, thus believe that the actual number is much smaller.
The ministry said since the Movement Control Order MCO was implemented in March 2020, the ministry and the Malaysian Consulate General in Songkhla has provided assistance to more than 2,439 Malaysians who wish to return home. The ministry's statement was a response to local media reports claiming that more than 10,000 Malaysians were trapped in Thailand and became illegal immigrants because their border passes had expired. The media reported that the situation occurred because they entered the neighboring country before the implementation of the MCO in March 2020 and failed to return home due to the border gates closure. The ministry said the Thai government in February 2021 had announced that all foreign nationals holding tourist or short-term visas must leave the country or they will be penalized if they fail to do so. Malaysian citizens in Thailand with expired travel documents who are affected by the closure of the border between the two countries are advised to attend the Malaysian Consulate General in Songkhla to enable the consulate to provide appropriate consular assistance.
Compound that was issued by the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, KPDN-HEP enforcement officers recently was believed to have been due to responsible traders who did not comply with the ceiling price that has been set by the ministry. Deputy Minister of KPDN-HEP, Dato' Rossol Wahid said buyers were misled by sellers who marked the price of the chicken at RM8.90. However, it was later sold at a different price.
Peniaga compound kerana dikatakan harga yang dicatat di meja ataupun tag harga tersebut RM8.90. Tapi bila dia timbang, dia tak jual harga RM9. Dia jual dengan RM9.20, RM9.30. Maknanya secara tak langsung dia cuba mengelirukan pengguna. Maknanya itu satu kesalahan. Yang kedua, kita bila ditanya di mana mereka dapat bekalan ini, mereka tak beritahu. Cuba mereka kata mereka dapat harganya dah RM8.70. Kita suruh dia jual RM8.90. Dia kata dia dapat dari pemborong RM8.70. Memang kalau kita sendiri berniaga pun takkan ambil 20% je atas sekilo. Memang tak mampu, tak boleh.
Adding to that, he said his ministry is also in the midst of investigating allegations that traders were threatened to not disclose information on where they obtained their supplies.
Ladang jual kepada pemborong RM5.60. Tapi maklumat yang terima, mereka terima dari ladang RM6.30. Maknanya RM5.60 tersebut dengan subsidi kerajaan 60%, maknanya mereka jual harga sebenarnya RM9.20 sepatutnya. Tapi mereka jual dengan RM9.30. Jadi ini benda-benda yang kita teliti untuk memastikan yang pertama tidak ada penipuan, yang kedua tidak ada penindasan, yang ketiga nak pastikan bahawa setiap rantaian ini ada kejujuran.
Meanwhile, under Ops Pantau, which was launched from April 3rd to April 8, a total of 88 cases were recorded throughout the period. It involved a total seizure of 19,528 ringgit and a compound of 45,000 ringgit.
Now on to some updates on the missing diver incident. British diver Adrian Peter Chesters, 46 years old, and French national Alexia Alexandra Molina, 18 years old, who went missing at Pulau Tokong Sango last Wednesday, were found safe early today. Mersing Police Chief Superintendent Cyril Edward Nuing said they were found by local fishermen at a location south of Pangerang, near Kota Tinggi at about 1 a.m., who then informed the authorities.
2 individuals was rescued by, were found by local fishermen of waters of Pulau Pengerang, the south of Johor. And then later, the 2 individuals were later saved by Marine Police and later was brought to the hospital. And now both individuals are in the hospital and was reported in stable condition.
He said the 2 victims were then sent to a private hospital in Pasir Gudang by the Region 2 Marine Police. Both victims are now in hospital for further treatment and both are reported to be in stable condition. The missing victim, 14-year-old Nathan Renze Chesters from the Netherlands, has been confirmed by his father to have died due to his weak condition. The Indonesian authorities have been informed to assist in finding the remains of the teenager as he was believed to have drifted to Indonesian waters.
Malaysia has abstained from a United Nations General Assembly vote to suspend Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. It was one of the 58 countries that had abstained in the voting on Thursday, which saw 93 member states vote in favor, while 24 countries were against the resolution.
The Foreign Ministry in a statement on Friday said Malaysia stressed that a critical decision, such as the suspension of a Human Rights Council member, should not be made in haste and must be accorded its due processes. Malaysia believed that the Commission of Inquiry established by the Human Rights Council in March 2022 must be allowed time to carry out investigations and present its findings first, to verify allegation of any gross and systematic violations of human rights and breach of humanitarian law happening in conflict areas. Malaysia also continues to closely monitor the developments, including the human rights and humanitarian situation on the ground, while reiterating the call for unimpeded humanitarian assistance to all those in need, particularly those in vulnerable situations. Under the established rules of procedure of the UN General Assembly, the General Assembly may suspend the membership of a Human Rights Council member that commits gross and systematic violations of human rights, with a 2/3 majority of member states present and voting. Meanwhile, 18 member states did not vote on the resolution.
Thank you for staying with us. Now on to some global updates. The death toll from recent heavy rains and flooding in Colombia rose to 13 on Friday, April 8, with soldiers working to evacuate residents in the Antioquia region. Antioquia is one of Colombia's hardest hit regions.
Mining sites in the area were reportedly wrecked by the fierce weather conditions that set off floods and a mudslide. On Friday, soldiers helped evacuate miners at the El Porvenir mine over a rushing river. Paulo Caro, a local miner, is recovering in hospital after making it out alive. But 2 other women she was with were not so lucky.
Eso fue una pesadilla. Éramos 3 mujeres y solamente quedé viva yo, de milagro. Eso fue horrible, eso no se puede describir. Eso fue muy duro. Muchos muertos, muchas personas enterradas y desaparecidas. No, es que no es fácil describir eso.
According to authorities, rain in Antioquia have caused more than 100 deaths so far this year.
Costa Rica's Juan Santa Maria International Airport reopened on Thursday, April 7, hours after a Boeing 757-200 cargo aircraft operated by DHL made an emergency landing and skidded off the runway.
Images from the site showed a yellow plane emblazoned with the DHL logo being doused with firefighting foam where it had landed on a grassy field next to a runway. The tail had detached and a wing had broken. Airport operator Aris said the airport on the outskirts of capital San Jose reopened at 3:30 p.m. local time, several hours earlier than expected following the 10 a.m. incident. Some 8,500 passengers and 57 commercial and cargo flights were affected by the closure, Aris said. DHL said the crew was unharmed and that 1 member was undergoing a medical review as a precaution. The company also said an ongoing investigation to determine what happened had been launched. The aircraft was bound for Guatemala when it apparently had a failure in the hydraulic system, members of Costa Rica's Civil Aviation Authority said. The issue prompted the pilot to request an emergency landing shortly after takeoff. DHL and airport authorities said they were working together to move the aircraft, although it was not affecting operations. Aris originally estimated the airport would remain closed until 6 p.m. local time, which would have impacted 3 cargo flights and 32 commercial flights to and from the United States, Central America, Mexico, Canada, and Europe.
And that concludes TVS Nightline for tonight. Once again, I'm Hari Zainuddin. It's been a pleasure.